How are you?
Doing well.
Deuce, in 2020, you guys came off of a tough loss, went down to Oklahoma and won. Is there any similarities between 2020 and 2022?
Of course. Back in 2020, I mean, it was first and foremost a wild year, COVID year. Came off of a loss to Arkansas State, and Coach Kleiman said the same thing that he told us that year yesterday in the team meeting. He said, "Adversity has struck. How are we going to respond?" And that's really what he left it at. And back to work this week. Had practice last night. Had practice today, and just doing everything we can to get ready for OU.
As a leader, what have you seen from the focus of this group going into Oklahoma?
Everybody's put it behind us. We understand that on offense, there's some things that we need to be better at. We understand as a team there's some things we need to be better at to be a great team that we feel like we are. And just getting back to work this week is what we've done. We had a really good practice yesterday, meetings and things today, and getting ready for practice today as well.
How much have the players challenged one another since Saturday?
A whole bunch. It's one of the things where I've asked guys, I know what I'm doing going forward to get ready for OU. What are you doing? And just asking everybody that and getting those same feedback and questions from guys to be sure that we're pushing everybody to be the best they can be going into this game.
For an opponent like Oklahoma, do you spend more time watching film, or is it the same average?
I'd say it's the same. I watch so much film. It gets to the point where there's nothing that you can really add on to. But just taking into account, I mean, they have a new defense going to a 3-3-5. They had 4 down the first 2 games. Going to a 3 down, you kind of have to. You only really have one game to really look off of. But it's a really good game to look off of. Some things that Nebraska did well, and some things that we can kind of counteract that they did.
Cooper kind of said that he's kind of looking at this as 0-0 on the record sheet. Is that kind of going around the entire team?
Absolutely. Everything that we want is still in front of us, especially going into conference play. You're 0-0 going into conference play. This is the first game on that schedule, and it's one that we're looking forward to.
Is there anything from a hydration standpoint that you missed last week, or you need to get better at this week?
Not necessarily. It's one of the things where I was battling through some things throughout the week, so I had to take some medication and stuff like that, and just didn't uptake my fluid intake with it as well, and something that I will be much more proactive on this week.
How frustrating was it for you to have to step off the field for that long of the ball game?
Unbelievably frustrating. I think they poked me about 4 or 5 times to try and get it right, and I'm in the locker room at that point, kind of just like I just go back out there without the IV at this point. So super frustrating, just for the mere fact that I wasn't available. That's the biggest thing about being a running back, being on this team, is I want to be available at all times. So I felt like I let my team down at that point.
Tulane looked like they did a really good job of tackling you, especially going low. Is there anything in your game that you may alter now that you know that, hey, this might be what the book is?
Absolutely, just understanding that going into these games, understanding that guys are going to be filling holes, filling gaps much quicker. They're probably going to have a lot more forward players as far as making sure that I and DJ and guys that are in the game don't get to bounce the ball outside, so that's rotating the safety down, making sure that corners are playing run fits and things like that. So anytime that you kind of have to get vertical, you can't get outside and upfield. So just taking that into account and really seeing what moves work best as far as attacking that is going to be something that I have to look forward to.
In that quarter of absence, what was your impression of DJ Giddens and the way that he ran the ball?
He ran the ball well. After watching the film, of course, it's really kind of his first game getting thrown into the fire, and I feel like he did really well. Of course, we watched the film with some things that we can clean up on, and he'll clean them up as he goes, but I feel like he did a really good job for his first time.
Thanks, Deuce.
Of course.
Where will Oklahoma test you the most?
I feel like their new defense, 3-3-5, it's one of those defenses where you have a jack player, and they have a lot of exotic blitzes from their 3 down. They'll walk a lot of guys up, overload the box, end up having you put you in a almost like a match type of deal, and now you have to get your eyes right because there's so many guys up on the line of scrimmage, more DBs out in the field. One of the things that, I mean, as a running back, as a quarterback, you really have to take into account, and offensive line, who may be coming, who's not coming, who are the eligibles and things like that.
When do you remember having to leave the field on Saturday?
After the 8-yard run, we ran a counter play, and I went to the ground and both of my legs locked up. Ended up running off the field and went inside, but they started locking up after my first run in the third quarter. The 26-yard gain ran out of bounds, and I felt them start to lock up. Went to the sideline, got some water and some stuff, get right stuff, and went back onto the field, locked up, so had to go back in.
What I think is kind of interesting. Can you walk me through the process? Like, what happens when you run off the field? What step by step? Like, what did they do to you to give you the idea? And
It was one of the things where I'm running off the field. I can feel my legs locking up with every step. At that point, my calves were pretty much balled up, and it was one of those things where for you to feel better, we're gonna have to put an IV in you. So we ran inside and ended up doing some trial and error and some stuff like that, and finally got it in my left arm. Just veins, whenever I guess you're pumping and going, they move around. So finally got it in my left arm, got a whole bag in, and as soon as we heard we were back on offense, it was kind of like, okay, pull it out, and ran back on the field.
Did they have TVs going in there? Could you keep up on the game?
No, so I was completely listening from. I could hear the announcer. That's the only thing I could hear while we were in the locker room. So I would hear like DJ Giddens with a 6-yard gain or turnover on downs and things like that. So I'm just like, okay, like trying to stay connected and asking questions. Okay, like what's going on? Do we have the ball? Do we not have the ball? And things like that. So it was kind of nerve-wracking.
So what was that feeling like when you do run back out of the tunnel?
I saw us in the huddle whenever we were running back out into the tunnel. They're like, hey, take it slow, take it slow. As soon as I hit the grass, I was trying to get into the huddle because I saw that we had the ball. But, yeah.
Kansas State's 2-3 against Oklahoma in the last 3 years. What does that do for your confidence personally going into this game?
It's one of those things where, I mean, as you see last week, anybody can beat anybody. And going into this game, we understand that the preparation, the work that we put in throughout the week, how we go about our business can't change. If anything, it has to be better. And we have to give ourselves the best chance of going to be successful on Saturday and then go and execute.
Coach Kleiman talked about being more aggressive on offense and maybe try to push, maybe not be as afraid of mistakes. Is that kind of an emphasis this week to maybe?
Of course. He told us as an offense to cut it loose. He was one of those things where he feels like we have the dynamic players out there that can make plays. And he was like, at that point, he felt kind of like we were playing not to lose and not playing to win, in a sense. And so that's something that, I mean, we're going to take into account all week. And as far as Saturday, I know myself, especially, I'm going to cut it loose. I'm going to do everything I can to help this team win. And I know that the guys behind me and the guys in front of me are going to do that as well.
It's obviously very different circumstances. What all do you remember from that game your freshman year at in Norman?
I remember being down 21 with, I can't remember how much time was left in the game, but there wasn't a whole bunch. And there was always a sense of feeling in that locker room and on that sideline that we're going to win that game. End up getting the punt block, tied the game up, and then it was at that point it was like, okay, we're winning this football game. It's one of those things where special team first and foremost, special team to do that. And I feel like we have a special team this year, and we just kind of have to stick to our rules and principles and go into this game knowing that, man, we can win this ball game at all times.
Having a victory in that building, again, all the special circumstances aside, does that give you guys any kind of confidence at all going in?
Of course. Just know the mere fact that, like I said, from this past weekend, anybody can beat anybody. And it's one of those things where we just got to take care of our business throughout the week and then go and cut it loose. That's going to be the biggest thing for us, is cut it loose on offense.
2 different games, 2 different drives. You've shown that you're one of the best lead blockers in the Big 12. Can you kind of break that down for us and how you prepare for that?
Really, I mean, it goes back to the off season, and I can't take credit for all the things that had happened throughout the off season. I mean, getting with Coach True, getting with the training staff, just to really find a way to add more weight, good weight, decrease body fat, things like that. So I can, whenever it's time to go and do things like that, I have the armor in a sense to go and do it. And then it was kind of like flipping a switch in my mindset. Freshman and sophomore year, I felt like I wasn't a timid player as far as blocking, but there wasn't a whole bunch of confidence in myself. Coming into this year was one of those things where, as long as I kind of knew if I cut it loose, understood that if I ran 100% full speed into this guy, that there's a good chance that he'd be on the ground and I wouldn't. And if I was on the ground, man, I'd redirect him enough for the ball carrier to get past. It's one of the things how I kind of attack it now.
What